Hello everybody, here I'm back. What you can see here is Citadel, and it's the Vietminh phase. So the Vietminh are the phasing players. What I've done now is I have, as I said in my previous video, decided to attack B and G fortifications. And I've chosen them because somebody said, why did you not choose the one down here, the I one? And I said, well, you know, the issue is, if I want to move, and I'm just going to pan slowly and zoom out a little. In order to reach this one, the Vietminh would have either had to start their movement over here, and it would have taken 1, 2, 3 clear hexes, or they could have gone swamp, which is an immediate vulnerability point. So in order to reach these, they would have hit several vulnerability points on their way. So this means that when you reach a vulnerability point, you have to pause, and then the French player in this case gets the possibility of shooting at you. So, however, if you go here and look at these two, the Vietminh only have to take 1 or 2 clear hexes, and they will not have a vulnerability point in order to get to these. So basically what this means is they can move exactly next to the fortifications, and basically then wait there, end the movement there, and then wait for the indirect fire phase, which is also what I did. So indirect fire, for those of us who are like me, new to this kind of game, there are 2 types of fire, direct and indirect. Direct requires a direct line of sight to the target, and indirect fire just needs spotting to have taken place. Now, spotting simply means that for some reason or other, it depends on how the game is set up or how the mechanics work, you know that there is an enemy. So what isn't clear from this map, unfortunately, is that the green jungle hexes all around the white plain where the French are actually mountains. All of these areas are in a valley. So even if you are on a hill here, you will be spotted from any of the green jungle hexes, because these jungle hexes are elevated. So what happens is you check for spotting, and spotting has certain rules to follow. Indirect fire spotting: target spotted if not in full or partial jungle or trench, weapons, pit or tunnel if Vietminh. Target spotted if adjacent to friendly unit and in full, partial jungle or trench, weapon, pit or tunnel. Recoilless rifle unit in any hex that has fired previously and not moved since. So basically anyone who, all of these ones would have been automatically spotted because there are friendly Vietminh units right next to them. These guys would have been spotted because they are on a hill. So what this means is that basically anyone in this area who isn't in a trench or in a full partial jungle unit, partial jungle hex, has been spotted. So the Vietminh actually can attack anyone here. So this is what I did, and there are different types of weapons that you can use. The Vietminh have mortars, and they have recoilless rifles, and they have howitzers. And depending on the type of weapon that you are using, you have different regulations that you have to follow. So for example, mortars always fire indirectly. Recoilless rifles only ever fire directly, in which case, you know, the direct fire phase follows, and this is the indirect fire phase, so they can't do anything just now. And the howitzers are 75, 105 and 155 millimeters, and that depends on the distance between the firing unit and the target. The 75 howitzers will only be able to use indirect fire if the target is more than 3 hexes away. The howitzer, the 105 as well, and the 155 will only be able to fire indirectly at anything that's further away than 4 hexes. So what I've done is, and they can only fire once obviously, I fired, and in order to show that these guys have fired, I've actually turned them over so that I know that these can't fire again. Now, taking losses, well, basically you have your fire combat result chart, and it's all very straightforward. I mean, you know, depending on the distance between the firing unit and the target, you take the table here. I don't know if you can see this. So, for example, a howitzer firing, a 75 millimeter howitzer firing at 1 to 2. You take the strength of that particular unit and you multiply it by 6. So let's say it's got a strength of, or there are 3 howitzers 75 millimeters firing at something that's 2 hexes away. So and they all have a strength of 4. That's 12 times 6. That's 72, and then you roll a die and you check against the this table up here, and it tells you that 72, and you roll, let's say, a 3, means the target is pinned and it takes 6 losses. Now, taking losses is a bit odd in my opinion, because French infantry units can only ever take 1 loss per unit. So if I fire at 1 target and it contains 1 battalion or 1 company, let's say 1 company, and as you can see in the result, I would get pinned and 6 step losses. I only ever lose 1. However, the Vietminh lose more than 1. It doesn't say how many they actually lose, it just says that all infantry units only take 1 loss unless they are Vietminh. So this can mean that maybe the Vietminh take 2, or that they take all. So if I was firing at 1 unit of Vietminh and I got the same result, that they would lose 6 steps, which would probably wipe them out entirely. And so I'm not quite sure why this is. I don't know the rationale behind it. I also have to say that, and it doesn't say any, it's not very specific in the rules, that's what it says in the rules, and I have to say that I find that a bit strange. But never mind. And then the other thing is that basically you take a loss, a step loss, so basically these guys have lost 1 step, so I put a 1 under it, and then it says that you can actually also get a critical loss, in which case you swap the counter. Unfortunately, I'm unable to determine at what level they get a critical loss. How many step losses can they take before it becomes critical, because it doesn't say in the rules. So when I look at, for example, Tonkin, you have different types of units. Some have 4 steps, some have 3 steps, some have 2 steps, and some only have 1 step. It's very easy, you can tell by the counter. But here on the counter, it doesn't say. So, yeah, like I said, I have no idea if, well, or maybe, yeah, I don't know why I'm unable to determine this, because unless it's determined by strength, possibly. Yeah, I'll have to, like I said, I mean, I've said this before and somebody else also commented on this. The rules are really badly written. But nevertheless, let's not complain about the rules, let's look at what has happened. I've managed to attack all of these and I've been successful. So basically all of these targets are now pinned, so that's what this little star symbol signifies, which means they cannot move, which is very important. So these guys in the French movement phase could not move to attack these guys, and they also cannot fire, which is really brilliant. So the next phase will also be a Vietminh phase, and we'll see how that progresses. But what I can say, number one, is the game itself plays very straightforwardly. The charts are really simple, they're simple to follow, they're really easy. Using the terrain charts, not a problem. And the mechanics, you know, movement, vulnerability points, fire of opportunity, let's call it that, indirect fire, and so on and so forth, make perfect sense. The way the steps are ordered make perfect sense. And so far I've had to say that I've only played two phases for the Vietminh player, but it's been really enjoyable. Of course, when you do it for the first time, you know, there's a lot of checking up on results and checking, okay, what kind of unit is what, and so on and so forth, and when can they fire. What I am going to do is, and this is something that doesn't come in the original rules, but it's in the additional rules, if you move a heavy weapons unit, let's say a howitzer, whatever, on your turn, you cannot fire it on this turn, but only on a consecutive turn, because the rationale that they put behind it is these yokes, these weapons are huge. You have to maybe even disassemble them, carry them, then reassemble them, and you cannot really do that on one turn. So if I was to move any of these, I would not be able to fire on this turn, which is important to know, and I'm going to follow this rule because I think it makes sense. So that's all from me. Like I said, I'm enjoying this game a lot. And if there's anyone out there who can enlighten me on how many step losses the Vietminh take, as opposed to the French who can only ever take one, please let me know, because it would be great to find that out. Okay, thanks, bye.